People are disgusting. My own father and mother are disgusting. You must be disgusting too. Meet the Master Craftsman's son, a cynical yet good-hearted character who supposedly meets a terrible fate. His story, while short, is one of the darker ones we find during our travels. But to tell this story, and hopefully understand him a little more, we need to look at a few other characters, which leads us to Kakariko Village. When you think of Kakariko Village, what comes to mind? The graveyard? The bottom of the well? Maybe the Shadow Temple, or this cool cutscene with Sheik? For me, it's the Kukos. These little feather folk are all over the place, and deeper into the village, a distressed person tells us why. This is the Kuko lady, who is surprisingly allergic to Kukos. She tells us that all of her Kukos have escaped, and she needs help getting them back. Thus, one of our first side quests begins with a Kuko, and ends with a bottle. A fine glass one, no less. Not too shabby. Fast forward 7 years, and you'll find the Kuko lady in the same spot. Once again, talking to her will start another side quest, and just like before, it all starts with a Kuko. This is how you eventually get the big Goron sword, but what stands out most about this side quest is the attention it brings to certain characters, and the bits of lore we get as a result. Specifically, with the Kuko lady, the Master Craftsman's son, the Master Craftsman, and Granny. To make things easier, and because I've already said Kuko way too many times, I'm going to be referring to these three using their alternate names. So Anju, Grog, and Muto. When we talk to Anju as an adult, she gives us the pocket egg, which eventually hatches into a pocket Kuko. This is a special miniature Kuko, bred by Anju to not trigger her allergies. Like the one we got from Malon, we use this Kuko to wake up Talon, which makes the little floof happy, and shows Anju that we're good Kuko keepers. In return, she gives us a rare blue Kuko, named Cojiro, which used to belong to her brother. She tells us that ever since her brother left, Cojiro has stopped crowing, which is sad. Now, who is her brother? Well, it's Grog, who as an adult can be found sleeping in the Lost Woods. And when we reunite Cojiro with Grog, something amazing happens. Cojiro crows. Grog immediately wakes up, surprised by Cojiro, since normally only a nice guy like himself can tame them. And because of this, Grog thinks we must be a nice guy as well. He immediately asks us to deliver an odd mushroom to Granny, telling us to hurry since it will disappear if we take too long. So back to Kakariko Village, this time to Granny's potion shop. Upon delivering the mushroom, Granny isn't very happy. She immediately calls Grog a bum, and comments on him having to go into the Lost Woods. Afterwards, she demands we hand over the mushroom, which she uses to make the strongest medicine she has ever produced, calls Grog a fool, and gives us the medicine to give to him. But the medicine comes with a dark disclaimer. This potion will not work on a monster. Before we leave, she ponders a bit of wisdom out loud. They say there's no medicine that can cure a fool. I guess that's true. With the odd potion in hand, it's time to hurry back to the Lost Woods and deliver it to Grog. Except when we get there, Grog is gone, and Fado is in his place. When we talk to her, she tells us why Grog isn't here anymore. Anybody who comes into the forest will be lost. Everybody will become a Stalfos. Everybody Stalfos. So he's not here anymore. Only his saw is left. Fado also recognizes that the medicine is made of forest mushrooms, and tells us to give it back. Doing so gives us the saw Grog left behind, known as the poacher's saw. This point seemingly marks the end of Grog's story, but not the end of the side quest. So let's continue for a moment. We take the poacher's saw to Muto, the Master Craftsman, who can be found in Gerudo Valley, outside of a tent. Turns out this is his saw, and he's a little confused that we have it, since he left it with his old lady. He takes the saw, gives us his broken Goron tool, which is a broken big Goron sword, and we take that somewhere and do some more stuff to fix it, it doesn't matter. So how are all these people connected to Grog? Well, I think Cojiro crowing pretty much confirms that Grog is the brother that Anju was talking about. But what about these two? As a child, we can try to enter the back of this house. A carpenter will block our entry, and seemingly start to scold us before starting a gossip session, telling us that the guy who sits under the tree every night is Muto's son. And who sits under the tree every night? Grog does. If you enter that same building through the front, you can talk to the carpenter that just told us about Grog. I heard that our boss's house is just behind this house. He doesn't want any of us to know though. The house behind this one is Granny's potion shop. If we try to enter Granny's potion shop as a child, we see a note from Granny telling us she's not home right now, confirming she still lives there and we're a child, and didn't just move in later. So if Muto lives in the same house as Granny, I think it's safe to assume that this is his old lady, his wife. A lot of people see Muto and the other carpenters here at night, so they assume the lady inside that cooks for them is his wife, but this lady is just letting the carpenters stay here. In the 3DS remake, there's actually signs outside that say it's the carpenter's boarding house, which makes sense that they wouldn't sleep at Muto's house, especially since he doesn't want them knowing where he lives. Another character references this lady, saying she's generous, and that she took care of the carpenters when they were here. So yeah, I don't believe this is his old lady. Now, before I go any further, I want to address a theory I came across. The theory goes that everything I said so far about their family tree is true, but Granny is also Muto's mother, which apparently explains why Grog looks the way he does, and why he thinks his parents are disgusting. I disagree with this, mostly because I think the foundation of the theory is flawed. From what I could find on it, it seems to ride on one main point, that Granny is Anju's grandmother, and since Granny is Anju's grandmother, but Muto is both her partner and Anju's father, that means they were keeping things in the family. But that's where I have an issue, because now we're blending Ocarina of TIme with Majora's Mask. A lot of characters in Hyrule have visual counterparts in Termina, but they're alternate versions of these people, often living completely different lives. A good example of this is Anju, who is an innkeeper at the Stockpot Inn, and doesn't raise Cuckoos in Termina. She's also not related to Grog or Muto in Majora's Mask. I think you can argue some things from one game carry over or apply to the other, but I don't think this is one of them. Granny's Japanese name in Ocarina of TIme is Kusuri Yano Baba, Kusuri meaning medicine or drug, Ya meaning shop or store, No, which indicates ownership or relationship, and Baba meaning old lady. But that last part, Baba, isn't a nice way to refer to an elderly woman. It's a highly disrespectful and insulting way of saying it. Baba is also commonly translated as old hag, old bat, and crone. Based on her Japanese name, I think she's called Granny in English because she's old, not because she's anyone's grandmother. Meanwhile, her Japanese name in Majora's Mask is Anju no Obasan, meaning Anju's grandmother. Here, the word Obasan means grandmother, and is a polite way to refer to a grandmother or an elderly woman. So I don't think Granny is Anju's grandmother here, like we see in Majora's Mask. Another thing I want to address real quick is there's a lot of people that think when Muto says his old lady, he's referring to his mother. So let's talk about the Japanese text again. When Muto refers to Granny as his old lady in Japanese, he calls her Baba. This has the same meaning as before, but with acting as an intensifier, making the word even more insulting. And sure, you can still say that's his mom, and he wouldn't be the first person to refer to his mother in a rude way. But I think you could also make the same argument that a husband could say that about his wife. The important part is that the original Japanese text doesn't imply that it's his mother. So I don't think the English translation was trying to imply that either. Let's move on. So we have Muto and Granny, not related, and their two children, Anju and Grog. We established a connection between these people, but we're still left with a lot of questions. Why do Muto and Granny sound so negative when talking about Grog? What made Grog hate his parents, and people in general? Why do we find him sleeping in the Lost Woods as an adult? What was the odd potion for? Why is the poacher saw named that? And why does Muto, a carpenter, have a giant sword? I am the boss of the carpenters that Impa hired to improve this village, and make it into a true city. But young men these days don't have any ambition. Do you know what I mean, kid? My workers are just running aimlessly around the village, and they're not making any progress at all. Even my own son doesn't have a job, and he just wanders around all day. This is what Muto tells us, a person he's never met before, the first time we ever talk to him. He doesn't hold back on how he feels or what he thinks, complaining not only about his workers, but also about his own son. Once again, to a stranger. We see the same thing with Granny, who goes a step further by calling Grog a bum and a fool. Notice how neither one of them talks badly about Anju. Speaking of Anju, What does she tell us about Grog? That he had a cuckoo that became so distraught when he left, they stopped crowing. That he must have been very lonely. She doesn't call him names, doesn't sound annoyed or fed up with him. She doesn't say a single negative thing about her brother. Instead, she shines a light on his possible mental health and their shared love for cuckoos. All of this speaks volumes about their family dynamics. What Muto says is reflective of the attitude you sometimes see from older generations when talking about younger generations. He complains about young men these days, and what he sees as a lack of ambition, and to top it all off, his son doesn't have a job, which I'm sure is a big strain on their relationship. He also comes off as gruff and abrasive, which doesn't help when two people already don't get along. Granny seems very similar, but it's harder to tell. She calls him a bum, sure, but when calling him a fool, at first she seems to be referring to him going into the Lost Woods, which would be seen by any parent as a pretty dumb thing to do. But this might not be the first time she's dealt with something like this from Grog. Calling someone a fool when they do something foolish, like enter the Lost Woods, is one thing. Saying there's no medicine that can cure a fool leads me to believe that she sees Grog as someone who generally makes foolish decisions. So we have a father that views him as lazy and lacking ambition, a mother that views him as lazy and foolish, and a sister that doesn't reveal her feelings directly. She comments on how he must have been lonely, making me think that she's worried about him. And whenever Grog left, he left Cojiro in his sister's care, which I think says a lot about their relationship. She only gives him to us once we show that we're good cuckoo keepers, probably in hopes of lifting Kojiro's spirits, since even in her care, Cojiro rarely crows. And while Grog doesn't like his parents, or people in general, he doesn't mention Anju directly, like he does with his parents. It's unclear when Grog's relationship with his parents became the way it is, but I think it's safe to assume his relationship with Anju has always been good. Otherwise, I don't think Grog would have left Cojiro with her. Now, from what we've seen so far, I would guess Grog and his parents have always been at odds with each other, and that things progressively got worse over time. And I believe this negative relationship with his parents had a big impact on him, causing a lot of self-doubt, depression, and isolation. While I think Anju was there for him as best as she could be, which would fit her caring personality, I think Cojiro is where Grog found the most solace. In caring for Cojiro, a cuckoo that seemingly didn't belong, I think Grog found a kindred spirit. Cojiro and Grog, the odd ones out, both blue cuckoos in their own ways. Now, when Grog sees us with Cojiro, he says that only a nice guy can tame them. I don't think this is true, but Grog thinks it is, and I think that's very important. Based on what we know in-game, I think it's safe to assume Grog tamed Cojiro originally. We can infer this because Cojiro rarely crows since Grog left, so he obviously used to crow when he was with Grog. So with that in mind, I think that at one point, Grog saw himself as a nice person. In fact, if you talk to Grog wearing certain masks, he'll tell you, "I really am a good man. Don't you believe me?" And I think he thought this because of Anju. Cojiro never crows for us. They crow because they're reunited with Grog. We didn't tame them, we gave them their missing piece back. So I personally don't think it matters if we're nice guys or not. I think Anju told Grog that only a nice guy can tame that kind of cuckoo in an effort to make him realize that he was a good person. And he believed her because she's so knowledgeable about cuckoos. A little lie to make her brother realize he wasn't a bad person. On a side note, I always wondered if Anju originally got Cojiro for Grog, since she loves and breeds cuckoos, maybe to help him feel better, with him eventually giving Cojiro back to her when he leaves. On the other hand, maybe Anju loves cuckoos so much because of Grog and Cojiro. Or none of it's related and I'm reading way too deep into chickens. Who knows? Pretty much their whole relationship is left to speculation, but based on what we do know, it seems like it was pretty good. Now, I mentioned earlier how I think Grog's relationship with his parents declined gradually over time, but I want to go over a theory that gives Grog a specific reason to hate his parents. Look closely at Muto. No, not there. Here. His pants have a pretty unique pattern. Now, where have we seen that before? Oh, that's right. Granny's potion shop. There's a pretty interesting theory that says Muto and Granny are involved in the illegal trading and harvesting of tigers. Without getting too deep into things, Granny has a tiger cub, and Muto has pants with the same pattern. This is also supposed to explain the poacher saw being called that, since it's Muto's, and in this scenario, he's a poacher. The coolest part to me about this theory is that it actually explains why Muto has the big Goron sword. And it's not to cleave down trees like Guts, it's to hunt tigers. Meanwhile, Granny owns a potion shop, and pretty much every part of a tiger's body is sought after for traditional medicines. According to this theory, this is why Grog thinks his parents are disgusting. I'm still on the fence about this one, but honestly, I don't know how else to explain Muto's pants, or Granny having an actual tiger in Hyrule. This could be what Grog finds disgusting, but that doesn't really explain why he also thinks other people are disgusting as well. And while it's obviously not okay in real life, I would imagine that in Hyrule, a tiger might be seen the same way as a wolfos, or any other dangerous creature we encounter. So depending on how tigers are viewed, this might not be why Grog feels the way he does about his parents. Poachers or not, I think it's more likely that his parents treating him the way they do is what molded Grog's outlook on life. He seems to purposely distance himself from others, and I think that's because he feels like he doesn't belong. When we're an adult, Grog takes this a step further and leaves Kakariko Village. We don't know when he leaves, but since Anju asks if we want Cojiro, I'm assuming he's been gone a long time. Now we know Grog eventually winds up in the Lost Woods, but how did he end up there? There's a lot of ways to interpret Grog's departure from Kakariko Village. Maybe he finally got fed up with his parents. Or maybe he left to prove himself to them. If we consider what we know so far, we might already have a clue as to why he left. We know he left Cojiro with Anju, but if Cojiro and Grog were so close, why didn't Grog bring Cojiro with him? It's possible that he thought the journey was too dangerous for a little Kuko, and left them with the only person he could trust. If this were the case though, I don't know why he would take them back from us when we see him in the Lost Woods, but we'll touch on that in a bit. I think he left Cojiro with Anju because of how he views himself now. Grog doesn't think he's a good man anymore. His negative emotions have broke him, and he leaves to figure things out. Which leads to another theory I want to bring up, that Grog entered the Lost Woods as a means of ending things. This would also explain him leaving Cojiro with his sister. He knew he wasn't coming back. I can see why a lot of people would think this, but if that were the case, then why does he have his father's saw and the odd mushroom? This makes me think he entered the Lost Woods with a purpose. His father is a carpenter, and his mother is a potion maker. Granny tells us that she wishes she could just once make medicine using ingredients from the Lost Woods. It's possible that Grog went into the woods to get Granny these ingredients, maybe as a way to curry her favor, since I think a lot of Grog's disdain for his parents stems from a lack of acceptance. This still doesn't explain him having the saw, but maybe he was using it to help clear his way through the woods, or maybe he was hoping to also gather some rare wood for his father, in an effort to gain his favor as well. Some of this is believable, but I still have an issue. Granny says that bum, he had to go into the forest. Like it's a realization she had when we gave her the mushroom. The way she says it, it makes me think Grog was possibly searching for something, and this search led him into the Lost Woods. Not that he was headed there from the start, which brings me to another popular theory, that Grog has a medical condition, and his search for a cure led him into the Lost Woods. This is mostly due to his appearance, with a lot of people thinking he looks sickly. This would also explain him already having the mushroom when we wake him up, and why Granny tells us to give him the potion. That is, if he's not already a monster when we get there. This is one of the most believable theories to me, but I don't think Granny was curing Grog physically. He just looks exhausted to me, and sad, not sick. I think she was trying to cure his mind in a sense, to rid him of his depression. There's no medicine that can cure a fool, but maybe there's medicine that can cure a sad person. And if that's true, then Granny really does care about Grog, despite her gruff exterior. You could probably say the same for Muto, that he only gets so frustrated at his son because he cares about him and wants him to do something with his life. Now, if all this is true, then why does Grog take Cojiro back from us? I see two options. Option 1. When we see Grog in the Lost Woods, he's sleeping. I don't think he stopped to take a nap. I think the magic of the Lost Woods is starting to have an effect on him, and when Grog is awakened, he doesn't try to leave the forest with us to give Granny the mushroom. He has us take it to her. I think Grog is too weak to move, and knows exactly what's happening to him. And upon being surprised in this moment by Cojiro, the only one who ever truly understood him, I think for the first time in a long time, Grog didn't want to be alone. Now that his best friend is here, I think Grog wants their company and their comfort while he drifts away. So he takes Cojiro and tells us to hurry to Granny with the mushroom, giving his mother an ingredient she always wanted to work with, while spending his last moments with his best friend. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering, what happened to Cojiro? And honestly, I don't know. I don't think the Lost Woods would view Kuko as a threat, like it would a person, so I don't think the magic would affect them. Maybe they wandered out eventually, or perhaps they never left, and they just live in the forest now. Maybe they couldn't handle losing Grog again, and drifted away with him. There's also the possibility that something got to Cojiro, like a transformed Grog. I know all of this is extremely sad to consider, so that's why I saved the other option for last. Option 2. When Grog was awakened by Cojiro, it also awakened something inside of him. For the first time in a long time, Grog isn't lost anymore. He takes a moment to gather his strength, finds his way out with Cojiro, and leaves the forest to start a new life with his best friend, with whom he'll never be lonely again. Maybe one day his parents will accept this, but it doesn't matter now, because Grog isn't shackled by the opinions of others anymore. He knows he's a good man and a nice guy, and all it took was a kind sister and a blue Kuko to help him realize that. I'm not sure if this is the ending Grog got, but this is the ending he deserved. Grog is such an interesting character, with so much of his story left to interpretation, and I love that he's tied to my favorite character in Ocarina of TIme, the Kuko lady. But theory building isn't fun when it's only one-sided, so I want to know what all of you think. Let me know your thoughts and theories in the comments. I also want to take a second to thank everybody for the support so far. I've been having so much fun making these videos, so I'm glad you've been liking them. We've barely scratched the surface of Hyrule, and we've yet to enter Termina. So if you want more stuff like this, make sure to like and subscribe, it really does help a lot. Thanks again, till next time.